as the last remnants of sunlight from the dying star, Zaridia, faded from view. Dr. Elara Vex stood at the edge of the space station's observatory, her eyes fixed on the desolate expanse of space. The once thriving star had been reduced to a smoldering ember, casting an eerie glow over the station. The air was thick with an air of desperation, as the inhabitants of the station scrambled to find a way to escape the impending doom that loomed over them. Elara, a renowned historian and time traveler, had been summoned to the station by its enigmatic leader, Director Arcturus. Elara, we've received a dire warning. Director Arcturus's voice crackled over the comms system, his words laced with urgency. Our scouts have detected a rogue time traveler, intent on altering the course of history. We need your expertise to track them down and prevent a catastrophe. Elara's eyes narrowed, her mind racing with the implications. She had always been driven by a sense of justice, but this mission would test her loyalty to the station and its inhabitants. As she delved deeper into the mystery, Elara discovered that the rogue time traveler was none other than her estranged brother, Kale. They had been inseparable as children, but a bitter disagreement over their family's legacy had driven them apart. Kale had always been reckless, and Elara had feared that his actions would one day have disastrous consequences. Now, it seemed that her worst fears had come to pass. With a heavy heart, Elara set out to track down Kale. Navigating the treacherous corridors of the space station, she encountered a motley crew of allies, each with their own motivations and agendas. There was Jax, a charming smuggler with a talent for getting out of tight spots. Lyra, a brilliant scientist with a hidden past. And Zephyr, a mysterious warrior with unparalleled combat skills. Together, they formed an unlikely team, united by their determination to stop Kale. As they closed in on Kale's location, the tension mounted. Elara's emotions were in turmoil, torn between her loyalty to the station and her duty to protect the timeline. She knew that stopping Kale would mean confronting the pain of their past, but she steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation. The final showdown took place in the heart of the station's engineering core. Kale, his eyes blazing with determination, stood before a massive time portal, ready to unleash a catastrophic temporal wave that would reset the course of history. Elara and her team burst into the room, ready to stop him. The air was electric with tension as the two siblings faced off. "You're too late, Elara," Kale sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "I've already set the timeline in motion. Nothing can stop it now." Elara's eyes locked onto Kale's, her heart heavy with sorrow. She knew that she had to act, but a part of her still hoped that Kale would see reason. In a desperate bid to stop the temporal wave, Elara lunged at Kale, but he was too quick. The two siblings clashed in a flurry of punches and kicks, their movements lightning fast. The outcome hung in the balance, as the station's inhabitants watched in horror. Just as it seemed that Kale would emerge victorious, Lyra intervened, using her scientific expertise to disable the time portal. The temporal wave dissipated, and the station was saved. Kale, defeated and humiliated, slumped to the ground, his eyes filled with tears. As the dust settled, Elara approached Kale, her heart heavy with emotion. She had saved the station, but at what cost? The pain of their past still lingered. But in that moment, she saw her brother, not the rogue time traveler. "Kale, I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I should have been there for you." Kale looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "I'm sorry too, Elara. I was blinded by my own ambition. I didn't realize the harm I was causing." The two siblings shared a long, heartfelt hug, the tension between them dissipating. As they stood there, the station's inhabitants began to stir, their faces etched with relief. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Elara realized that her loyalty and duty had not been mutually exclusive. She had protected the station and its inhabitants, while also reconciling with her brother. As the station's inhabitants began to rebuild, Elara knew that she had found a new sense of purpose. She would continue to explore the time stream, but this time with a newfound appreciation for the complexities of honor and duty.